Well, Pakistan and Afghanistan agreed to a 48-hour temporary ceasefire beginning today. And this, of course, comes following a week of intense cross-border hostilities that left dozens dead on both the sides and majorly strained already fragile bilateral ties between both the countries. Well, the Pakistan Foreign Office confirmed this development, stating that the truce was arranged with the mutual consent of both the parties. But what we're also witnessing right now is that both Pakistan and Afghanistan are rather saying that it was the other side that asked for the ceasefire right now. Now, during this period, both the sides will make sincere efforts to find a positive solution to this complex but solvable issue through constructive dialogue. And that's the statement from Taliban right now. Now, let's tell you as to what's going on right now. When did the skirmishes start between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and what's the way forward? All right, moving on. First, what's going on? So on October 11th, heavy clashes between Afghanistan and the Pakistan forces started, after which Pakistan sealed border crossings with Afghanistan, and both the sides blamed each other for starting the violence. Taliban now claims killing 58 Pakistani soldiers. Meanwhile, Pakistan claims killing 20 Taliban forces. So both the sides are accusing each other of the rising hostilities and killing each other's forces. Now, Pakistan also says that several Afghan border posts were destroyed during the skirmishes. And the latest coming in is that today itself, a 48-hour ceasefire has been agreed between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Well, to talk more on this, I have with us Dr. Brahma Chilani, who's joining me live from New Delhi. Welcome to NDTV, Dr. Chilani. First up, of course, Pakistan and Afghanistan have agreed to a 48-hour ceasefire. Your assessment of the situation, and do you think that this ceasefire will hold?
That's a good question. Being a temporary ceasefire, its continuation depends very much on both sides observing the ceasefire. In fact, these hostilities were triggered by Pakistan's actions in carrying out airstrikes on targets in Kabul and elsewhere in Afghanistan in early October. That is about 2 weeks ago or so. And then that led to the Afghan Taliban retaliating. I don't think the Pakistan army factored in a fierce Taliban response to those airstrikes, but the Taliban really mounted an audacious series of reprisals. And then on the evening of October 11th, the Taliban declared a unilateral ceasefire. But Pakistan military continued its offensive, rejecting that unilateral ceasefire. Now, 4 days later, that is today, Pakistan has agreed to a temporary truce, but that agreement to end hostilities of 48 hours happened after Pakistan carried out fresh airstrikes earlier today in the morning. They attacked sites in Kandahar and in Kabul. So obviously, these hostilities are quite fierce, and both sides have claimed to have inflicted heavy losses on the other side, and both sides were amenable to intervention by Qatar and Saudi Arabia. As you know, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, Asia, have their own geopolitical rivalry. They don't see eye to eye even on regional issues in the Middle East, but both are competing also in the diplomatic field to try and broker an end to conflicts elsewhere beyond the Middle East. And therefore, Qatar and Saudi Arabia both played a role in arranging this temporary ceasefire.
Right, Dr. Chilani. Just to add to that, Pakistan asked Qatar and Saudi Arabia to mediate immediately as the violence escalated, which you also pointed out. But I also want to talk to you about the condition that Pakistan is in at this point of time, a double whammy of sorts, because it's also going through unrest in its own country with demonstrations happening. And what we're also witnessing right now are border clashes with Afghanistan. Your take on this?
Pakistan is in a very difficult situation. It's grappling with violent unrest at home. We saw what happened in Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir some days ago. And now on the streets of Lahore and elsewhere in Pakistan, there have been violent clashes between security forces and demonstrators protesting the government's policy toward Israel and Gaza. But the violent unrest at home and the increasingly deadly clashes with the Taliban, those two security challenges are intertwined. And add to the complexity is Pakistan's economic instability. So Pakistan is confronting domestic political instability, economic instability, is teetering on the brink of default constantly, and then now it has a serious external challenge from the Taliban, largely because of its own provocations and actions in carrying out airstrikes in Kabul and elsewhere. So today, Pakistan's situation is a very difficult situation, a situation which actually takes the air out of the sails of the self-styled Field Marshal of Pakistan, Asim Munir, and the military-backed Prime Minister. Both thought they had the wind in their sails after the way they were received by Trump. They have been quoting Trump. In fact, they signed this major cryptocurrency deal with the Trump family-controlled World Liberty Financial. That deal was signed on April 27th, for just 5 days after the Pahalgam terrorist massacre. And that deal led to a sea change in Trump's attitude, not just towards Pakistan, towards the entire Indian subcontinent. And we have seen the impact on India from this sea change in Trump's approach. So both Asim Munir and Prime Minister Sharif thought that they were riding high, and suddenly these crises at home, as well as the crisis on the border with Afghanistan, have brought them back to face harsh realities. In fact, Asim Munir now not only faces military embarrassment because he did not factor in the audacious Taliban reprisals, but he also risks losing face at home. So for him, the clashes with the Taliban, as well as the growing domestic unrest, where security forces, including army troops, have been involved in firing on unarmed demonstrators, all that cannot redound to the image of Asim Munir.
Right, Dr. Chilani. We're running out of time. My last question to you. It's a 48-hour truce between Pakistan and Afghanistan. If that fails, do you think it threatens to lead to something much bigger at this point of time?
Well, if the clashes resume at the border, the Taliban can actually instigate greater unrest within Pakistan, especially in the cities, given the Taliban's cross-border ethnic affiliations and linkages. So for Pakistan, ensuring that the truce not only holds for the next 48 hours, but leads to a more enduring ceasefire with the Taliban is very important. Otherwise, Taliban's internal and external security challenges will exacerbate.
Right, Dr. Chilani. Thank you so much for joining us here on NDTV with your insights on this.